Episode 16, Winded City Countdown, or, as the cousin tells us, 84 till a big reward. I'm Scott Sternal, Ben Russo, Matt Urich. Ben, have you talked to the cousin this week?
I did. Actually,
Yeah,
just talked to him.
How is the cousin?
He's good. I talked to him actually a little while ago. So
Yeah, the cousin is going to be a dad soon, so I'll be interested to see how that works out for him. But we got cousin Joey, friend of the show.
Yeah, we'll hook cousin Joey's baby cousin Joey. I'm sure that the baby has an actual name, but we'll hook said baby up with some Winded City Countdown
Swag.
Some merch.
Some merch.
Ben, where is the name from? Do you know how they came up with the name?
His dad's name was William.
Okay.
So if it was a boy, it was going to be William. Then they went with a play off of William, obviously. So
because it's a girl.
As
far as they know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they know that it's a girl, but
always a chance the wiener's tucked, right? I mean,
and it only took a minute and a half for the podcast to go off the rails.
So we got the cousin. We're rooting for him. He's rooting for us. Traveling the world and listening to our podcast, so we appreciate that. Before we get into it, Matt, you did a little side work today, is my understanding. Let's talk about that a little bit. They plugged us, so we can plug them a little bit.
Yeah. Buddy of mine, Jake Bartleson. Jake worked last summer for ChicagoFootball.com. Jake does a little radio show. He's over there at Ball State University, so he had me on today to talk a little Bears, little playoffs, draft talk and stuff like that. He hosts the Jake Bartleson Show. You can find Jake on Twitter at Jake Bartleson, and I'll tweet out probably tomorrow, and probably the account will tweet out Tuesday. A link to that interview, and I thank Jake for talking about talking about our podcast a little bit and throwing it out there. So hopefully we got some new listeners.
For sure. So
also a little shout out to Matt. I think if you didn't see it on Twitter, Matt is back with Bleacher Report.
He's back.
The Bears
Back again
for the draft, and then I think for the regular season as well, right?
That's still in the works, but hopefully. But definitely with the draft coming up. So excited for that. I'll have some stuff I believe April 18th will be my first new stuff back with them. So that's exciting.
Awesome.
So we'll keep trying to. We're gonna figure out how we can, get you to Matt stuff and keep getting you to some of our unique content for Winded City. So we're gonna keep working on the written side. It's one of the harder things for us to keep up with. The podcast, we get a night, we do the recordings, we make sure that we're, getting that piece of this out. I know we want to do more with the writing, but I know between Ben and I, if you've been following, you probably know by now that Ben and I are both dads, and Matt, even though he lives in his parents' basement, he's got responsibilities butching.
Yep.
He's butching, so and with his other writing opportunities that he has, it's a little tough to keep that end going, but we're gonna keep working on that. So stick with us, bear with us, and at the very least, keep listening to the podcast. So I know we did that. We did a little bit of this on the front end today, which is okay. But let's get into the weekly, the things we're talking about, and I'm gonna start it at number 4 with one that I want to throw in, and we're gonna talk about it for just about 45 seconds here. The USA beat Guatemala, thankfully, which means we're not quite, it's not DOA for the U.S. men's soccer team, which is great. Matt, did you take in any USA Guatemala?
I caught just a few minutes of it. I saw the score at the time. They were up 3-0.
Yeah, they slaughtered them,
and they should have. They should have slaughtered them.
Really should have.
And it's a shame that they this early into a World Cup qualifying process that they were on the verge of getting knocked out. That's awful. They should not be, because is the U.S. gonna contend for a World Cup anytime soon? Probably not. They should not fear not qualifying. They're too good of a team to not, or to be at that point this early in that process.
Agreed. So big win there. Tough loss for the under 22s. We did not qualify for the Olympics, which is disappointing because I was really hoping to watch some soccer at the Olympics. Which, by the way, we have to dedicate some time at some point in the next month here, guys, to talking about the train wreck that is going to be the Rio Olympics.
It's terrible.
And have you read anything on the Rio Olympics or no?
I know it's just like a war zone, like not even a war zone. It's just like a cesspool of various weird diseases and junk piles, and the water's contaminated. And
it's gonna be wonderful.
Our top 10 list should be like top 10 diseases you can get while playing sports.
In Brazil, just in Brazil on their own can have a top 10 list of diseases. So we'll get into that. But the U.S. did not qualify for that. But there's still the national team is still holding strong to go on to the Hex and hopefully to the World Cup for 2018. So that's going on, but I wanted to talk about that because we touched on it briefly last week. Number 3, things we're talking about this week and going forward, the Chicago Blackhawks. Gentlemen, I think we've all seen the Duncan Keith slash. Are we all of the opinion that 6 games was light? Ben?
No, not at all.
You didn't think it was light?
No, I thought it was fair.
Wow. Matt?
I think it's light.
Okay. Ben, why do you think it was fair?
If you just look at the suspensions that came down this year, it's tied for the worst one that they gave out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not condoning what he did, but let's not pretend like Coyle was innocent in the whole thing. I mean, Coyle took a shot at his face. I know there's some saying, because Duncan Keith said that it never made contact with his face. Well, it sure as hell looked like it made contact with his face from what I saw. Then he sweeps out his legs and takes him down. You can only get pushed so far before you're going to do something like that again. I'm not saying that what he did was right, but I don't think, by the looks of it, he clearly tried to swing. Do I think he tried to swing and hit him in the face? No, I don't think he tried to hit him in the face. It just was kind of where he was at, where the swing was, the way Coyle was moving. Yes, it did make contact with his face, but I think there's far worse things you could do. The Booyahs tried to have some guy go on and say it was an assault with a deadly weapon.
Oh yeah, that's ridiculous.
It was a guy swinging a hockey stick, and people trying to put it on the same level as Marty McSorley. I mean, come on,
that was a stretch.
You're really pushing it to the point where, and I think these are the people, because it's the Blackhawks, because they had success. You're obviously going to make it worse than it is. And yes, Keith's got priors. I get that. I just I don't think. I think 6 is more than fair. It's the rest of the regular season and 1 playoff game. Which
they generally count those for 2.
Yeah. If you want to say playoff games are worse than that, sure. So you're talking closer to a 7 or 8 gamer.
Yep.
Fine. I mean, I think that's more than fair.
So I was of my opinion on this was, if this took place in January, Duncan Keith gets 10.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But because we're close to the playoffs, and because John McDonough and Bowman have the ear of Bettman, you could see them tapping the ratings and going, hey, by the way, the ratings whenever the Hawks are deep into the playoffs are way better than when they're not.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And Duncan Keith, I would assume, is a pretty well-known name in terms of hockey outside of the city of Chicago. He's obviously a big name in Chicago, but he's a Conn Smythe winner. He's a Norris Trophy winner.
2-time Norris Trophy.
Yeah, so it's a star player who got treated a little bit easier because of the fact that the playoffs are right around the corner. So if he would have got suspended for 8 games, I would totally understand it.
I'm also curious.
He should know better.
I'm also curious if it was one of those things where they talked and he just agreed not to appeal it, because I could have seen them giving him 10 and then appealing it and getting it down to 6 or 7. I wonder if it was one of those things where it was just kind of just take 6 games, walk away, and we'll call it a day type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I could
agree.
see something like that.
I hear you because I know I saw the 6 come down, and my first thought immediately was he's not going to miss playoff time because he's going to appeal, and he'll get it reduced by a game. And then he immediately came out after that and was like, no, I'm not appealing. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I could totally see something like that being the case as well. Um, any concern about the concern we haven't changed. The pulse of Winded City has not changed, I assume, on the concern for this Hawks team as we get towards the playoffs.
No, I think we've said. I think I texted you yesterday. As long as the offense is healthy, they have a chance at least, because we know there's going to be problems with on the defensive side of the ice. But if that offense clicks and they're putting up 4, 5, 6 goals a game, which obviously we understand playoff hockey is different, but if you're going to be getting even 3+, you're going to at least be in contention. Your biggest hope is Crawford needs to come back here.
Well,
soon
he's supposed to
and
play
get some
against
ice
Columbus.
time,
He's supposed to play against Columbus, so that's huge.
Yeah,
that he'll
so if you
one
get
game
Crawford
in
back,
before.
I mean, if you're getting 3 goals a game, close to it, you should be in good position. No matter how bad the defense is, in my opinion. So
one of the things the Hawks have benefited from over the last couple seasons is they've had a really nice playoff draw. They've had 2 years. Is it 2 or 3 years in a row now with Minnesota? 2 years in the semifinal or the conference semis with Minnesota, where Minnesota upset Colorado 2 years ago, and then last year Minnesota upset St. Louis. And it's setting up again. I mean, the Hawks will play the Blues, and I think that is about as even as it's going to get. And then what if Minnesota upsets Dallas, which is not out of the question? I mean, Dallas, they could score, but they're goaltending, man.
That's bad news.
Right. So all of a sudden, the Hawks play Minnesota. I know Minnesota has taken it to the Hawks this year, but I also think.
Yeah, you're talking about a Minnesota team would then have to beat the Blackhawks 9 times in a calendar year, and I don't see that.
So I mean, it sets up potentially again here for the Hawks that the draw can be tremendous. You get St. Louis, which I think of any team they could play in the first round, St. Louis would be the team I would choose.
Yeah, I think we said that last week.
And then if Minnesota gets the upset, now you're against Minnesota, and then who knows what happens out in the West. I mean, I would feel good if they played anybody. If San Jose were to make it through, I'd feel okay there. So it'll be interesting to see what the Hawks do. And as I say this, our next week, our list is going to be a top 10, our top 10 for who can win the Stanley Cup. So we'll be sure to check that out next week. I'm going to plug that now because we just finished talking hockey, and that's going to be the bulk of our conversation, or that will be our conversation for our top 10 list next week. So moving forward, I know about 3 months ago, when we were setting up and talking about how we were going to fit some of these lists together, we talked about this up. So next week, episode 19, will be our NHL playoff preview, 10 teams that can win the NHL championship, the Stanley Cup. And then the week after that was going to be our basketball one. And all of a sudden, I think we all kind of thought, okay, well, the Bulls will fit somewhere on that 10 list. And now here we are. As of right now, 9:02 on Monday, April 4th, the Chicago Bulls have 5 games to go and are 2 games behind the Pacers, and for all intents and purposes, 2.5 games behind the Pistons because the Pistons own the tiebreaker.
Yeah, the Bulls do have the tiebreaker on the Pacers, though.
Right. So they're 1.5 behind the Pacers, I guess would be the right kind of what you're looking at, because if they tie, then they take the spot. So the bottom line here is, I think 3 months ago it was kind of like, well, could the Bulls maybe, could they upset the Cavs in there? Everybody else is kind of a middling hot garbage team just like them. So could the Bulls, back their way in and then pull like New Jersey Nets or Philadelphia 76ers of the 2000s where they get there and then just get swept away or win maybe one game and that's it. And now here we are. So right now, Are the Bulls making the playoffs? I don't think anybody on this pod would say yes right now, right?
Yeah, it's a big old no for me. I mean, what have the Bulls shown, especially in the last month? I'm
I mean,
probably
two
probably
months. I
even
mean,
2 months. I mean, yeah,
you're talking late January.
that slide has been awful, and injuries haven't helped, but that shouldn't be an excuse.
It isn't an excuse because Tom
No, because I
Thibodeau.
was just gonna say we've talked about this ad nauseum. The three of us that Thibs got so much out of so little so often. And Fred Hoiberg he doesn't have the pulse on this team. When you hear it took I think it was last week that Taj Gibson finally came out and said that people need to stop blaming Fred Hoiberg for all this. Why did it take Taj that long to say that? If you truly believed it, you should have been saying that months ago when people were all over Hoiberg for that. So this team's a mess. I don't see it being any better in the years to come unless something we've all talked about, unless Gar and Pax are gone or one of the two is gone, preferably Paxson. It's a mess. The whole thing's a mess. I don't know where they're going next year. I don't want them to make the playoffs. I don't want to be forced to have to watch or keep up with a handful of games here in the following weeks. So I don't see it happening. But even if it does, it's not really going to draw my attention if they are in.
So right now, looking at the schedules here, the Bulls at Memphis this week, at Miami, home for Cleveland. So those are their next three. Cleveland game is deceptive because my guess is
they're resting guys.
Right, they're close to locking up, so they're going to rest. And then
if the Bulls win one of these next two, either at Memphis or at Miami, I'll at least give them a chance because
they've got to go 4-1 though, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they have to win one of these next two to have a chance because if they lose both of these, that's it. I mean, because I'll give them a chance to win the last three because Philadelphia stinks. The Pelicans are just banged up as can be. They're going to be shorthanded completely. And then, like you said, Cleveland's probably resting their guys. So you have to win one of these next two to even have a chance in that home stretch. So.
And then looking at the Pacers schedule, they have Cleveland on Wednesday. So, I mean, that'll be a game that Cleveland could actually try to play as long as they haven't locked up the number one. So that's a tough one. At Toronto, I don't know what Toronto has left to play for at this point. They're playing just for seeding, but I think they've got the two locked up.
Yeah, so at best they can get the one.
And I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a stretch for that. So
yeah, they're 3.5 back, and they've got 6 to play. So they would really need Cleveland to just puke all over themselves. So let's say they lose to Cleveland, Toronto, they start resting guys maybe, or they don't give a full effort. So they win there. Then they're home for Brooklyn, home for the Knicks, and at Milwaukee. And so if they lose to Cleveland, you need them to go. If the Bulls go 4-1, they would have to go 2-2 in their final four for the Bulls to have a chance. The math seems difficult at this point.
Yeah,
the math seems difficult, and I think looking back at the end of the season, the Bulls are going to have nobody to blame but themselves.
And then we'll see what they actually blame, if they actually make a move and get rid of somebody or just kind of blame injury and try this crap again.
Yeah, I don't think injury is the real reason here. Let's quickly, before we transition here, we do have the local connection to the Golden State Warriors. They're going for 70. They're going for 73. They've got to go 4-1 down the stretch here in order to get it. Matt, do the Warriors beat the Bulls record? Where do you stand on this?
Yes.
You think they're going to get it?
Yeah, I think so. Because and now I guess I'll ask you guys this question too. Do you think that they, or Steve Kerr more particularly, wants to rest his guys down the stretch? Is that something you would see him doing, or do you think that getting to 73 is more important than resting?
the players want it.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do, I think back to that Colts team that was, what were they, 13 or 14-0?
I believe they were 14-0.
And then they rested everybody against the Jets in week 16. And it just kind of felt like it threw a wrench into the machine that they had going. And granted, that team, it did have its flaws, but it felt like that moment really, really, really hurt them when they did that. And I wonder what kind of effect that'll have on the Warriors. The Warriors, though, for them, you look at the standings, they're going to have a first-round series against either Dallas, Utah, or Houston. That shouldn't be a big problem for them. And then a second-round series against LA or Memphis. Again, it'll probably be LA. They should handle LA, you would think. It really is just for them at this point. It feels like a formality that they're in the conference final. So I don't know what resting their guys for a few games does. Ben, what do you think on that?
I think it would be something where, like, because I've watched quite a few of their games, and even when they're up big pretty late, you still see Steph and Clay out there. Mm-hmm. I think this would just be one of those situations where they pray they get one of those big leads, and then, they can start, maybe Steph's not playing 35 minutes, he's playing, 27 or 28 or something like that. I think that's what they'll try and do. I think they're going to go for it. You came this far. I don't see how you just stop at this point. But
right. Do you think they get it, Ben?
Yeah, I think they get it. At the very worst case scenario, they tie it, but I think they get it.
Did either of you two see Scottie Pippen's remarks when earlier this week he was asked in Houston?
They said they would sweep them.
Yeah, he said Bulls would sweep them in 4 games, and he would hold Steph Curry to under 20. I think he said, yeah, less than 20 points.
I buy it.
Yeah, it's far too hard to compare. It's just different games, different styles, especially the way the Golden State plays.
Yeah,
it's so different.
My biggest question would be, what rules are we playing?
Yeah, right. Are you playing?
If we're playing mid 90s rules, the Warriors don't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because Steph's going to go to the lane and get just clobbered by Longley one time. And that's going to be like he's not going to want to go back. He's pretty well protected in this era. And then I think the one thing that I don't think the Bulls ever got enough credit for, as weird as this sounds, was they were just such a smart basketball team. And Phil Jackson was a master at working the referees between games in a series. Yeah, he was just an all-timer. So even if something happened where the Bulls were up 2-1 or something, Phil Jackson would just be like, "Yo, you really got to watch that hand check from Steph Curry, or you got to watch the carry of the ball." And next thing you know, it would be, the Warriors would just be thrown off their game. I also like to, I watched that game against San Antonio a couple weeks ago now, and watching that, I felt like that would be a very similar blueprint to what the Bulls would do. Pippen playing the role of Kawhi. And just really, handling Steph Curry and making sure Curry didn't get into any kind of rhythm. I could totally see him doing that. Because Curry has struggled with those when he gets guarded by the longer guards and forwards. He does struggle a little bit, which you can't really blame him. So
I think Scottie would give him a run for his money, but if you could set screens and get Steph open, he's going to hit shots. But it's something we'll never know. It's a dumb argument in the grand scheme of things.
It would be. I wish we could figure out a way to.
Oh God, it'd be so cool if there was a way, but we'll never know.
Never know. So I'm going to go on record and say I think Golden State ends up tying it. They've got 2 against San Antonio. 2 against Memphis and 1 against the Wolves. I could see them dropping the one at Memphis and then splitting with San Antonio and just coming just short and going 72-10. So, which is nothing to scoff at because, my goodness, 72-10.
It's damn good basketball.
All right, gentlemen, and let's finish this off tonight. The weekly, the one thing we're going to be talking about all week. It's opening day. Last night, Sunday was opening day. But today's real opening day, right? I mean, even though you had a couple games yesterday, do you agree with me on that? Like, this is not yesterday.
Yeah, I don't like that. And then yesterday, especially, they had 3 games. That was the first time they've done the 3 games on Sunday.
Yeah, that sort of threw me off a little bit. I didn't realize
like
they were
that.
doing that.
Well, you know what? It really bothered me was they had those 3 games, and then the Cubs played the Angels
Yeah,
in a spring training game.
Yeah, so dumb.
It's like those years that they've had like games in Australia or in China that were regular season games, and you're like, oh, that's a regular season game happening a week before real opening day,
Yeah.
and we have like a full slate of spring training games like that. I just keep it simple. Keep it simple. You know, if you want, and I would actually be down with if Major League Baseball wanted to say, listen, we're gonna do opening day at the home, like do the NFL style. Like I do like what the NFL does, where they have the Thursday game for like the at home of the Super Bowl champs. I like that.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw last night. I liked that they had the Royals play. It was the Mets, but it could have been anybody. Like I would like to see the champion be the team that opens up.
Yeah, they got to do their banner raising or whatever you want to call it, and sort of celebrate a little bit. So I'm with you on that too. I think that makes more sense to have your champion have their home opener, and just let that stand on an island on its own.
Yep.
Instead of having all these other games, because like I said, I didn't even know there were other games. I like flipped the TV on yesterday afternoon, and I'm like, what the hell is there these games on for? Like, I thought that the primary game was Kansas City versus the Mets, but whatever. Major League Baseball really doesn't care.
No, and I don't know that it's a huge issue for them going forward.
No, I doubt it.
But it's definitely one of those things that I'm interested to see. If they, I like when sports kind of figure out what they're going to do, and they stick to it, and they go, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to run our opening day, and that's how it's going to stay. So, we talked last week. Did you guys have any changes to your predictions after what we saw last week?
No.
After what we talked about last week and what we've seen.
I mean, mine. I haven't really changed anything. I mean, for me, I was already going with the Mets anyways, and that was before we recorded that podcast before it was known that that Harvey had blood clots in his bladder or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
We all thought
he held his pee too long.
Yeah, we all thought it was something of a bit. Not to say that that's not severe, but that we all thought it was something a bit more severe than that. So nothing's changed on my part.
Yeah, I think the only thing, and I'm not changing any of my picks. I think the only thing is, I think I underestimated or undervalued the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
It's a solid team, and I keep forgetting. Like, I look at their pitching and I go, oh, there's gonna be questions. I forget that they have 2 pretty high-ranked prospects who will probably be joining the team, sooner rather than later here. That's gonna kind of fill out that rotation. So maybe I undervalued them, and I'll tell you that the Mariners didn't do me any favors, given some confidence in them today, losing after. I think what I read today, they were the first team since 1913 to lose a game giving up only 1 run or something weird like that. Like multiple runs but only giving up 1 hit or something like that, whatever it was. Some weird stat, but they didn't do me any favors today, but I'll stick with them even though they'll probably finish in last place. So
yeah, Texas scored 3 runs on 1 hit today.
Yeah.
And what's odd, what's really odd? It wasn't like they walked to, and then there was like a home run. It was bases loaded walk, a single, so there was your 1 hit, and then an error gets the 3rd run in. So, tough way to lose, start the season.
Yeah.
For sure. The thing with opening day is, and Ben, I thought you had the perfect tweet. Was, remember, Cubs fans, if the Cubs lose today, the season's over, everything is for nothing, and we got to tear down the whole team.
Yeah, I think it's funny where, and it's baseball, it's America's pastime, where we all get so excited for opening day when really, in the grand scheme of things, it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, a win today or a loss today is absolutely nothing. I mean,
It's not like the NFL where you only have 16 of these. You know,
right.
You've got the next 4 months, 5 months, whatever it is. Hopefully 5 months, 6 months, I guess.
One game out of 162. So.
Yeah. So just enjoy the fact that there's baseball on. There's things to watch or listen to, I guess now, while you're doing whatever. But it's nice to have it on. But yeah, I'm not gonna get it bent out of shape if Jake Arrieta gets roughed up or something on, game one. It's just the way it goes.
Yep, marathon, not a sprint, right?
Amen.
That's the way to look at it. So that's what we're looking at this week. U.S. survives out of with Guatemala, but they're not going to the Olympics. We have the Hawks just trying to get to the playoffs healthy at this point. The Bulls, it's not even a dumpster fire or anything anymore. I believe we have to just go ahead and say like the whole damn apartment complex is on fire. And opening day is just the most lovely thing ever. It's just nice to have baseball back, especially when your team matters.
Yeah, I kind of forgot what that was like.
Well, I think that's the beauty of opening day is honestly every team, every fan base, I'm sure like the Reds fans and the Phillies fans probably understand where they're at, but at this point there's 15 to 20 teams who are like, we could do it. We could do it. And then by, the end of the week, you'll be like, oh God, this is over. It stinks. But yeah, I mean, I think, I just think it's, baseball's back. It kind of means, spring's here, summer's coming. It just adds everything to it. So,
and hopefully the Cubs play well enough that we're all in hurry up and get me to October mode sooner rather than later. So, with all that being said, thank you again for listening. Again, Matt, you were on with who earlier today?
Jake Bartleson.
Jake Bartleson. So
yeah, check him out on Twitter. I'll like I said, when he gets the link up tomorrow, I'll tweet some stuff out so you guys can listen to me and check out Jake's show.
So thanks to Jake for having Matt on. Plug your show like you have plugged ours. We appreciate that a lot. Hopefully we'll get some more writings up. And if anything, check out Bleacher Report for Matt's upcoming articles on the draft with them. But for Ben Russo and Matt Urick, I'm Scott Sternal. Thanks again for listening. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. Check us out on Stitcher. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and all those other platforms. Thanks for listening.